All right. Call the meeting of the Sanborn Regional School Board to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Do I have any action on the minutes for May 17th, 2023?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments? All right. All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Okay, I will start signing manifest documents and move them around. Tom, nominations, resignations?
Thank you. I have a few nominations. One is Nicole Schuker. She's special education teacher case manager at the Bakey School. The second is at the middle school. Taylor Todd, special education teacher case manager, and Sharon Valdez at the middle school for special education case manager and teacher. At the high school, we're recommending Bradley Louis Vigor as the assistant principal and Amy Leahy as school counselor.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? All right, unanimous. Thank you.
I have a few resignations. One is at the Bakey School for the 2022-2023 school year, Dawn Thurlow. The second is for the 23-24 school year, Justina Austin at the Memorial School. And at the middle school, we have resignations from Megan Anderson, school counselor, Stephanie McDonald, special education teacher, and Kristen Shepard, 7th grade science.
Do we have to do those separately since they're different years?
No, I just read them as different years so that it was clear what you were motioning.
I make a motion to approve with regret.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. All right. Are you doing a superintendent's report? No.
Short one.
Short
Yeah,
one.
for real, a short one.
Okay.
I just wanted to remind everyone that this Friday is graduation, and Thursday night we will be having baccalaureate. I just wanted to let everyone know that it was very difficult for the principal to decide to have graduation indoor. It's a twofold decision. One is that the field is so wet that even if it was nice out on Friday, it would be really hard to use the field because it would get damaged significantly. The second reason is that it's probably going to rain Friday afternoon and evening. So I just wanted to thank all the parents for their patience and understanding with this. It was a very difficult decision for Miss Mitchison, and she did work hard and think long and hard about what to do. I also wanted to just take a minute to say that I'm very excited about some of our new hires. We have had some really great candidates apply for positions this year, and the folks that we nominated this evening we're very excited about bringing them on board to the Sanborn community and the Sanborn family. And we are looking forward to an awesome graduation this Friday night. I know that I don't want to steal his thunder by accident, so I know he's got a huge list. So I'll stop there.
All right.
There's a lot happening.
All right.
You can put the hook back down.
Yeah. Kept it short. We're good. Do we have subcommittee reports tonight?
I do.
You do? Heather, you have some?
Yeah.
All right, and I have
Find it.
one as well. Okay. Heather, you want to start?
Let me just, I don't know. Where is it?
That's all right. I can.
I have one.
You have one? Yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
The facility subcommittee met on May 24th. In attendance, myself, Jamie Fitzpatrick, Jeremiah, and the business administrator, Matt. Matt went through the administrator's comments. We reviewed details of various projects. We spoke about the auditorium, which upgrades there, and a spreadsheet that was needed for that. We went over the draft CIP report. We had some discussion on that. We briefly talked about a proposed timeline for an expansion within the district, and that was tabled. We talked about some older items, the LED light discussion. We had no public comment. That's it.
Okay, great.
I found it.
All right, Heather.
I have meeting notes from the policy committee on May 17th. In attendance was myself, Ms. Bashaw, Ms. Dutton, Business Administrator, Mr. Angel, and Superintendent, Mr. Ambrose. We approved the minutes from the meeting on 3/8/23. We reviewed 6 policies, KFA, public conduct on school property, KI, visitors to the school, staff, and students, JHC, student early release precautions, JLCER, emergency form, proposed JCEB, administrative personnel, and we discussed striking 3 policies, CD, GCEB, and GCEBR. Most of those policies have already been brought to the board for first and or second read. And our next policy meeting will be June 21st at 5 o'clock.
So we had a personnel committee meeting today that I did not attend because I screwed up. So get that out there. To begin with. You screw up, you got to own it. The finance committee meeting met on the 24th. Regularly scheduled was the 17th, but there was some scheduling conflicts. They weren't able to do it till the 24th. So the general. There was 4 different budget requests that were reviewed, so we have to review those at the board level. $21,000 was taken out of a group of smaller supplies accounts within special education and put into a supplies education account. That was approved unanimously. Another one, $29,000 was put into a special education account from one school into a district level account because of the needs of the students. Again, within special education, that was approved unanimously. One more was $13,342. Again, taken out of numerous different small accounts and putting into a general supplies account. So consolidating accounts to make it easier to process. We did discuss on this that we wanted to make sure we did not lose sight of significant amounts by consolidation. And Dr. Kennedy pointed out some of the processes he used will be able to have that transparency and that stuff. And the fourth one was $11,748 coming out of going into tuition out of state special ed and coming out of tuition out of state from a different school because, again, following the kids. Numerous other things were covered, but I'll go into just one that is relevant for the end of the year here. Mr. Angel went through the estimate for the end of the year unexpended funds at $658,000 roughly. That includes an estimate of $100,000 for the memorial roof repair and an estimate of $75,000 for out-of-district placement. His belief on both of those is that's not likely to be happening, so that this number will be going up. That's what I got.
Great. All right. And I have excellence in student achievement. We met on May 17th. In attendance were myself, Ms. Bashaw, Ms. Ingham, Superintendent Ambrose, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Christine DeRocher, and Director of Student Services, Troy Kennett. I was named chairperson of the committee. In the meeting, we discussed the grading manual for grades 3 through 5. And it's a draft that it was going to be going back to the teachers to look at. And it was basically, right now, the way the grading works is, we have the high school, we've kind of bumped it down a little bit to make it fit the middle school, and then they've bumped it down a little bit more to make it fit the 3 through 5. So that's being looked at by the staff, and then it will be coming to us for approval, hopefully soon. We also looked at the K through 5 literacy program. The teachers spent time during the fall and winter months looking at a variety of reading programs to pilot or adopt for the 23-24 school year, and 6 initial programs were brought up by the teachers. The criteria was, they reviewed the criteria that ensured that will align with state expectations, checked ed reports, did a lot of research And they have narrowed it down to two programs.
Three at one
Three,
point.
three, and one of them didn't meet ed reports. So it really was narrowed down to two. Amplify, in my view, and Amplify, I think, is what we didn't talk about it in the meeting, but
We'll have a presentation
Christine will
this evening
be-
from
yep.
our ELA folks.
Yep. So we'll be talking about that shortly. We did have Dr. Pam Brown was in attendance, so we did have public comment for her. She said, it was also, tough going through the same things, grading, curriculum, all of that. She said, you have to do something new. And teachers say, well, I have this procedure for an assignment and I want to see if this one's working. Why do I need this one? So she said, she gets it. She sees what has happened. She's lived it. And she said, she also asked about the 100,000 foot view, if you will. And she's wondering if we're going to get an update on targets, academic targets for math and English in our strategic plan. Does it involve meeting goals? How are we doing that? So we recommended she contact Mr. Rocher to talk to her more about all of that stuff, because we just didn't have time in the meeting to get into all of that. Our next meeting is June 21st at 4 p.m. All right. Nobody else? All right. Student council report, JJ.
So first off, I want to congratulate all of our amazing athletes on a great spring season. Varsity baseball made the cut for playoffs for the first time in at least 5 years. I'm not quite sure how long, but that's as long as I've been involved at the high school level. Varsity softball made the playoffs and made it all the way to quarterfinals, so great job to them. We had 11 track athletes place at the D3 track finals, and 2 athletes, senior Brady Ash for the 400 meter and junior Ben Cardoso for pole vault, place at the Meet of Champions, meaning that they'll be going to compete in the New England Regionals on Saturday, June 10th in Bangor, Maine. The Senior Sports Awards was held last night, June 6th, and all senior athletes were recognized for their outstanding commitment to representing Sanborn. 6 students were honored with being selected to receive the Society of Women Engineers Award, an award given to female students at the high school and college level who excel and stand out in the fields of STEM. Congratulations to seniors Kate Lucier and Erica Smith, and juniors Ella Rydeen, Aubrey Harriman, Caitlin Bobsine, and Kate Booten. On May 31st, the seniors' last day of classes, the senior class hosted Sanborn Regional High School's first ever field day during periods 5 and 6, where students participated in events reminiscent of our old elementary school field days. These included kickball, tug of war, yard games, capture the flag, rainbow parachutes, and an ice cream truck that the senior class paid for. To end the day, we got to see a performance by the student band Porcelain Jumpsuit. It was a great time, and I, for one, at least really hope that the next year's seniors continue it, because I had a lot of fun personally, if they have the money to do that. The senior trip went off without a hitch, with approximately half of the class of 2023 going down to New York City. They got to see Lower Manhattan, the Statue of Liberty, Wall Street, the famous Trinity Church, the 9/11 Memorial, and Chinatown. And they also, I think it was Jamie that suggested they go to the Hard Rock Cafe.
No,
They
that
got
was
to,
me.
no, that was you. They got to do that for lunch on the second day. Overall, they had a great time, and thank you to all the chaperones and staff members that worked with us on making that happen and came with us.
Hey, JJ, do they still have Paul McCartney's bass right when you walk in?
I don't know. I wasn't able to go because I had baseball playoffs.
Sorry.
Yeah, it is what it is. The class of 2023 yearbook was dedicated to Miss Bover, a teacher and student council advisor, who has spent years doing everything in her power to make people's high school experience the best it can possibly be. So congratulations and thank you to her. Congratulations to all the high school and middle school students who received awards at the music awards ceremony, which took place this past Monday, the 5th. Thank you to Miss Alley and Miss Levitt for hosting an amazing community partners breakfast where students who have had or currently have internships were able to invite their community partners to come to Sanborn, and for us to provide them with free breakfast to thank them for participating in Sanborn students' educations. On the 23rd of May, the middle and high school held their joint chorus concert, which a bunch of students were participating in. I was there, and they sounded great. And Mr. Harrington did a great job with coordinating all that. I couldn't imagine the headache that must have been. So great job to him. On Friday, May 26th, students from the marine biology and environmental science classes went on a whale watching trip off the coast of New Hampshire. They left out of Rye Harbor, and from what I heard, they saw like 3 or 4 whales. So that must have been a lot of fun for them. Also on Friday the 26th, the National Honor Society took field trips to go read to some of the elementary school kids. I wasn't able to attend personally, but from what I heard from everyone else, it was a really great experience for the kids and for us. And also on Friday the 26th, Student Council took our annual trip to the State House in Concord for the New Hampshire Association of Student Council's spring conference. We elected our state leaders, and Sanborn ourselves was recognized on the state level with an honor council recognition, and on the state and national level with an Improving Our Union award. So congratulations to us. Go us. Student Council finished up its raffle fundraiser that was done in coordination with the PTO. It was a raffle for 2 Red Sox versus Yankees tickets with $50 of spending money for parking and food. Congratulations to the winner, Justin Varney. Student Council profited over $1,000 from that fundraiser, so I really hope they do it again next year. That money will go to helping lowering the cost for the various Student Council field trips that we do throughout the year and funding all the little fun things that we need in the background to run all the events that we do throughout the year. On that note, congrats to the newly elected officers of Student Council: Mary Varney as president, Maya Thompson as vice president, Tori Gibson as secretary, Ella Rydeen as treasurer, Sydney O'Toole as public relations officer, and Alyssa Radjevich as historian. And on a final note, I wanted to reflect as my time as a member of the board. It's been one of the highest honors that I've been given to serve as a member of this board, and even more so to have been put there by my peers. The ability for students to speak directly, freely, and publicly and legitimately to take up their concerns with the leaders of their school systems has been shown across various studies to be very closely correlated with improved engagement in academics, co-curriculars, and overall higher student success rates. And while I'm glad to have been part of that, there are many improvements that should be made. Namely, the board should vote to update their policy to match what is required under state law, which is that student representatives must have full rights as to all other members of the board, except for the right to cast an official vote in the final tally. I, for one, was deprived of this right multiple times. I was told that the board does not believe that I should have the ability to speak when they don't want me to. And free student voice is something that can solve problems that would never be addressed without it. Free student voice improves schools. Free student voice matters. And I'm hopeful, and I'm very hopeful for the board's future in this regard. I think that reform is coming, and I hope that the next student council, student school board rep will have this vision fulfilled for the duration of their term and all future student representatives' terms. With that, I'm proud to have been able to have this opportunity to serve as the representative for all Sanborn students, and I'm glad that my successor is a strong member of the Sanborn community and is someone who will stand up for students where it matters most. Thank you.
I just want to clarify, we have reached out to legal counsel and we were told differently than your interpretation. So I think that's just a difference of opinion in how the law is read. So
The law is very
Thank
clear.
you.
It says
and
word for
we
word
had-
equal to all other members of the board.
and we had legal counsel look into it as well, JJ. So thank you. All right.
But I think we all want to say thank you
Yes.
for being here, and we appreciate
Thank you.
All right. Since there is no one here. Okay. We'll move past public comment and we will go to Matt. Authorization to accept and spend funds raised for Comfort Support Dog at Memorial School and Seacoast Learning Collaborative.
Okay, so initially when the police association approached me about this fundraiser, I got the impression that they were asking for us to receive the money on their behalf. They're going to actually accept the money in their funds and spend it out there. So basically, I'm going to use this time to tell you that they're doing a fundraiser. They're selling T-shirts for $20 each, and 100% of the proceeds are going to use to offset the cost for the support animal at Memorial School. In the school board drive, I put a couple pictures of what those T-shirts look like. Okay, if you have any questions, that'd be great.
Are there any details about where or how to purchase?
I'm sorry. This is a fundraiser that's occurring at Memorial School. If you're interested in purchasing any T-shirts, please contact the main office or the principal's office at Memorial School.
There was an email that was sent out
I was gonna
earlier
say.
from Officer OJ that
Okay.
has a link.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
So, yeah,
Okay.
so it has pictures and like the order. You can get away from the
And did that go to all schools or was that just, I was gonna say, I think if we could maybe push that out district-wide, that would be
Happy to
great.
do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I saw it, I think I saw it shared on Facebook.
Okay.
So I think if we could push that out district-wide,
Yeah,
I
maybe
think,
I got it because
I think because you have a, yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah, I
I
get
thought I got it just because I was special.
No, yeah, you're special.
Went right into my sales there.
You're not special.
And I totally remembered that. I just wanted him to say it publicly.
Are we voting for anything?
No.
or is this just
No.
an
Just giving you a head up.
Thank you. That's my question.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And a great article in the Carriage Town News with
Yes.
Officer Old Jay and the
Yes.
dog.
And a really
Yep,
cool
and
news
you are ahead.
spread on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic, yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cute kids in that
Yeah.
story, might I add,
There were very cute kids
Couple.
in that.
especially. It's a darn good looking dog.
Stop now.
I think
digress.
I think it's great. Obviously the puppy is adorable, but I'm so excited that we're gonna have a comfort dog at Memorial, and I look forward to future comfort dogs at future schools. It's great for the community. So yeah, I will be buying a t-shirt. So yeah, I agree with Dawn. If we can get that out on the district page, that would be great.
Just forwarded it to Phyllis so that she does a great job of setting it up. So it looks nice and it's all ready to go. And then we can put it on Facebook and in the different newsletters at each of the schools. So I
Mhm.
forwarded it to you, Phyllis. We can talk tomorrow and
Yeah.
we'll get that right out ASAP. I just wanted to say too that I completely support this whole thing with the comfort dogs and I would love to have one at every school.
Okay, slow down, one at a time.
Nope. Keep going. Because you got to get on waiting lists. It takes forever. It
It
took them
does.
a long time to do this.
Mhm.
So
Oh, we'd
I,
have to,
I know that if we don't start the discussion in the fall, it will be another 2 years before we can actually.
would it have to be a police officer to be its handler? Can it be a guidance counselor?
I don't know. I have to explore.
Get results in the top 80 or top 20% of the state. All dogs you want.
Thanks, Jamie. That's exactly what I told my kids. 3 days, I'll get you a puppy. No puppy
I
yet.
guess that's an interesting kind of question though, because obviously Officer Old Jay is already in the schools, but I guess you did say guidance counselor. So I think that's the benefit to having it be an officer is it's
Yeah.
the person's already here, but you're suggesting guidance
I'm just
counselor,
saying,
right?
like, I don't know if the other SROs, I know Bakey, they fluctuate.
Right.
It's not the same police officer every day at Bakey.
Yeah.
So I'm just, Officer Old Jay is choosing to do this, this is part of, it's going to be his dog, right?
Mhm.
Whereas like for a comfort dog has to belong to a human. So
Yeah.
Right.
would it only be SROs if we were, looking, would it be other school personnel?
I think that there are two major hurdles to having a comfort dog. One is the person who is going to be responsible for the dog.
Yeah.
And the second is finding funding for the dog.
Mhm.
The third is getting a dog.
Oh yeah, no.
And so it's
project.
a lot. That's why I'm only half joking that if we don't start talking about it sooner than later, it takes a long time
It's a,
to get all the pieces to line up. Officer OJ has been working on this for quite some time.
Sure.
It happened fast in the public's eye because he had worked on it and then shared it when he was at the end of the journey.
it's like it's a 2 to 3 year process.
really
I've
is.
written letters to families. And
Yeah.
It's not as easy as it looks.
I think Mrs. Ambrose would like to have one of the dogs, but I'm sorry, that's probably not going to happen.
And everyone's really excited about Luca, and that's great. But the handler is the other half of that. Without the handler, it doesn't happen. So Officer Old Jay and what he stepped up for is second to none because that's a commitment that goes way beyond the badge and the gun and your duties.
Yep.
So
And his
that's-
family. His family is
Yes.
totally invested. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's a whole package. So
Thank you,
agree.
Jeremiah. I agree.
It's a-
Okay, great. All right, then we can move on to authorizations. Authorize superintendent to hire over the summer.
Make a motion to approve to allow the superintendent to hire over the summer.
Second.
All right. Jamie?
Just if the superintendent can just give some details on that for the public.
Sure. So what happens is this time of the year, if we get openings and we have candidates, we have to move very quickly and the board may not meet over the summer. Typically does not meet in July and the first part of August. So the board authorizes the superintendent to hire. And then I bring a long list of nominations to the first board meeting in August, just so that you have transparency about who's been hired for what. I would like to just make one caveat. I would not hire the principal for Memorial. That has to come to the board. So, and we are having interviews Thursday. So that would come to the board on
Tomorrow,
the 21st.
Thursday?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, that is tomorrow.
I know.
It's a
right?
crazy week around Sanborn.
I know. All right. Any further comments? All in favor? Unanimous? And pretty much all of these are standard protocol for how we handle things over the summer, just to keep things running smoothly. So the next one is authorize superintendent to issue long-term suspensions over the summer.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Jamie?
I make the same request because not.
Oh,
everybody-
yeah,
not
yeah.
Everybody's. seen
Mo-
these.
most of what would happen, I mean, this one's kind of, because we have a meeting at the end of June and school is out, it's less likely to happen, but typically it would happen if something happened at the school, part of a summer program, or there was vandalism to the school where I had to deal with a very sticky discipline situation. It just gives me a little bit of cover. It's very, very, very rare. I've never had to do it, because usually we're done school before we go to summer and we have a board meeting. So we don't have any students the week of the 21st, but we have a board meeting. So I think we should be good. But just in case something happens, it gives me the permission to handle it.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Great. Okay. And lastly, authorize business administrator to pay bills and payroll over the summer.
Okay, so similar to the other two authorizations, because the school board may not be around for the months of July and August or the beginning of August, we need to have the ability to make payroll and also pay our bills throughout the summer. So that we're going to have like at least 3 payrolls that we have to run, which are not going to include teachers. That usually is the first payroll in September, but summer purchases would generally be supplies like a floor stripper, floor wax, anything major. I would reach out to the chairman of the finance committee. That's it.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Yeah. When you say major, was there a threshold on that?
Major would be like a hole opens up in the roof. I need a roof. I would contact maybe the finance chair and the facilities chair. We would discuss as to whether we would need an emergency school board meeting for something like that.
If it's really big, we're going to have an emergency meeting.
Yeah, that's okay.
Thanks for asking. It's good to clarify that.
Mhm.
I wouldn't authorize it without us meeting.
Any other comments, questions? All right. All in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Christine, ELA curriculum K through 5 presentation. I am going to move.
Is this a projector situation?
I think so.
It will be projection.
Good thing I got 2 coffees.
You're not taking your cushion.
Thanks for bringing me one, Christine.
Next time.
Oh, thank you, Christine.
I'm saying up to the.
Everybody's just standing up, huh? Thanks.
I'd love one. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just getting a little drink.
Yeah,
I have the honor afterwards, but thank you.
Thanks.
That's it, though. Yes, now we're out. So thank you very much for allowing us to present this evening. We have been asked to present the core knowledge language arts, which is also known as Amplify. I also have here Karen Malone. She is the ELA coordinator for K-5 for the school district. And then we also have some various set information in the packet. We have some online information for you as well that we'll be sharing with you via email. So if we're looking at CKLA, what does it have within this program? It actually has 3 main parts to its program. It provides today's standards, all those knowledge and pieces of text, within content knowledge to improve those comprehension pieces within children. It also supplies foundational skills to accelerate fluency, and it's based on research. And the biggest part of CKLA that other programs don't have, it has content that actually students love. Science, history, literature, culture, and arts. So we began this process in the fall in looking at, with our curriculum cycle for reading at the elementary level, if we're looking for a reading program, what should that reading program have? What components should it have? And then looking to the teachers to try to reach out to their colleagues, see what reading programs are working, what's not working, looking at ed reports. And through this process, we discovered that we looked at maybe 6 or 7 initially to begin with. And then in January, the state surprised us. The state decided to draft a House Bill 437, which talks about reading and literacy, especially K-5. And one of the things that they're looking for K-5 is around the science of reading. So including different strands within reading, covering again those basic skills, those phonics, those foundational skills, and pulling back what we would all have and recognize as our education when we were younger. We'll get into that in a little bit. But in January, we had Professional Development Day reviewing programs and giving feedback. So they did a gallery walk. There were check marks based on the science of reading, all the components in various areas. In March, they had presentations from program representatives. And in May, they convened a steering committee. And the steering committee is a group of veteran teachers. And we met with them and heard their concerns around some of the programs, this one in particular, because of the amount of rigor that's within the program. You'll see that in a little bit. But we also went on a visit to Rochester to observe Amplify CKLA in the making. We went to classrooms, we met with administrators, we met with reading specialists, and they were able to really ask their questions. We spent the entire day. I do want to publicly thank Rochester for opening their doors to us and spending what is a very busy spring walking us through things. The kindergarten classroom, or first grade classroom, all the way up to 5th grade. And then having the teachers be pulled in order to meet with our teachers to talk about what did they struggle with in implementation? What were the hurdles that their kids had to face in order to make this possible? So I do want to thank them again because they were just wonderful to us. And then what we also did, Rochester also came to meet with classroom teachers and some members of our school board, actually with Dawn and with Jamie. So they could then ask follow-up questions from the teacher's perspective, but also Dawn and Jamie could also ask questions from a school board and a parent standpoint. And then today we are presenting this to the school board. Go ahead, Karen.
So overarching all of this information is this graphic that we think is really important for people to understand, because listening comprehension for years ages 1 through 5, that's the only kind of comprehension they get, whether it's being read aloud to or having conversations with their parents. So like I said, from ages 0 to 5, it's all listening or oral comprehension. And then when we get to 5, when kids start coming to kindergarten, they start getting exposed to phonics and starting to read very simple texts. And that, and you can see the reddish brown part moving up over the years to age 13, because it takes all the way up to 13 years old for reading comprehension to catch up with listening comprehension. So even in the older grades, children benefit from being read to. And this is Scarborough's reading rope. This is what Christine was talking about when she mentioned the science of reading. So in a very simple way, the science of reading has two different parts. They have the language comprehension part and the word recognition part. So in our K through two grades, they're mostly working on the word recognition part, which is working on hearing the syllables in words, recognizing when a word ends, recognizing when a sentence ends, recognizing the sounds for letters. It also includes decoding, which is breaking the words apart into their sounds so that they can read them. It also includes encoding, which is not on there, but encoding the spelling. And then sight word recognition. So those words that become part of our lexicon, we see them all of the time, and they just become, like, really when you see them, you just automatically know what that word says. You don't have to spend any time trying to figure out what the word is. And then throughout K through 5, or really K through 12, but we get to language comprehension. And this is broken up into 5 different parts. What Amplify does really well is it provides background knowledge for students. So they get a full exposure to, like Christine said, social studies, science, different cultures, poetry, and things like that. It has very robust vocabulary. Every unit has a lot of words that children are exposed to, but vocabulary also goes deep into like shades of meaning. Language structures encompass syntax and semantics. So syntax is our grammar, like the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives, and semantics are how those words come together in the sentence and what they mean in the position that they are in the sentence. Then we have verbal reasoning, which is what it says. It's inferencing, it's understanding metaphors and similes, all that figurative language. And then literacy knowledge starts in kindergarten, or even actually earlier. Can students hold the book correctly? Do they understand that words across the page move from left to right? And then genres like fiction, nonfiction, historical fiction, fantasy. So all of these different components work together to make a good reader. And as the years go by and the strands get tighter and tighter, the skill of the student to read becomes better and better. And this is Amplify's version of the reading rope. So their knowledge strand is what we just talked about at the top of the reading rope, and the skills strand is all of the word recognition things that we talked about, the sight words and the decoding. And then, as you can see on the right side, grades 3 through 5, while they're tightening that rope, they are getting integrated instruction, not separate instructions. Because K through 2, they get an hour of the knowledge strand and an hour of the skill strand. Grades 3 through 5, it's 90 minutes to 120 minutes, but it's not separated out into two different strands.
So we talked a lot about building knowledge. So right here is also in your handouts as well. So what kind of knowledge are they building? What kind of themes or topics are they covering in each grade level? And what's here in gray, and these are just examples. There are examples for first grade, etc. We just wanted to pull out several. So for kindergarten, you can see here the themes that are in gray are actually the science strands. So this actually matches what's in Next Gen Science, the national standards in science. So kindergarten would start with plants. And how do plants lead into farms? How does that associate with happens with the seasons and the weather? What effects does the seasons and the weather have on farming and on those plants? And then how do they take care of the earth? So those are some of the big science themes within kindergarten. And in grade 2, if you move over, a social studies example would really be westward expansion, the US Civil War, then we're talking about immigration, and then fighting for a cause. We're starting to talk about becoming a nation and working through some of our challenges. And of course, this is on grade level appropriate materials. It's something that they have spent a lot of time researching and developing. And what's wonderful about Amplify is they're making tweaks every single year and asking educators. They have 4 or 5 reading specialists that they work with that are employed with them. And if for some reason a district doesn't like a certain topic, they will give us a supplement unit of that topic for free. Just because there's 15 million students in this country using Amplify, and they recognize different states have different rhythms and heartbeats, and they know that they're supplying the best information. It's really about the skills that they're trying to build for children, and not necessarily set material and religions of the world, for example. In full transparency, one of the first grade teachers brought that up and said, look, I'm looking at world religions. I don't feel comfortable teaching this. So I went back to Amplify and I said, look, world religions is a little bit gray. It's, even our high school teachers sometimes teeter when they're talking about that to students in the social studies class. What else could we have? And there were 3 or 4 different options. So they're able to really work with schools, which I found to be very impressive. When speaking with other programs, they didn't have any materials that we could swap in and out, which was nice. The next one, what I've also done is to really kind of show you how they build background knowledge, but then also what's a child's journey if they start in kindergarten, let's say, and we're looking at the bottom one. This is for social studies, history again. They start in kindergarten with colonial towns and townspeople. Then it moves to a new nation, American independence, and then goes to the US Civil War. You'll see here in grade 3, it's colonial America again. So the kids are building that knowledge, that those seeds of learning and of curiosity are planted young, and then it's revisited later on and built upon. So they have some baseline, and then again, oh, I'm going to see this again, and then they're going to build upon that knowledge. And then by the time they get to middle school, they're going to have a wonderful core understanding of these science and social studies strands that they need to have for those standards. So the program structure, as Karen mentioned, you can see here K1 and 2 separated, and they have like different workbooks and different teachers editions. So there's the knowledge strand, and then there's the skills strand, and each of those are 60 minutes. And then 3rd grade takes them and braids them into each other. So in the lesson, the teacher's lesson, she might start with a fluency piece and then work in content reading. So they're going to weave those strands in because it's a 3rd grader. And then by 4th and 5th grade, it's 90 minutes. And so why is it 90, not 120? It's because by that time, they don't have some of those foundational skills, the phonics, those decoding skills, students have already mastered. So that's why it goes down to 90 minutes. And I can tell you that Rochester has it for like 150, but that's because they incorporate their wing time, or what we call like an intervention block. So they take that additional 30 and put them all together. Okay.
So now we're going to dig in a little bit deeper into the skill strands for K1 and 2. And this really includes systematic phonics. So everything's taught with a purpose and not just willy-nilly. You know, we start with short vowels. We start with some consonant sounds, and then we continue to build on that over the next 2 years. Handwriting is included in this program as well, so we don't need something separate to teach kids how to print. Grammar is included, which I don't remember seeing in any other programs. The language conventions are just like we talked about in the reading rope. Just want to make sure I refer to it correctly. The language structures. And then spelling is part of a lesson every day, and writing is part of their program as well. And then the knowledge strand for K through 2 includes a lot of read alouds over many topics. It includes close reading, which is reading the text more than once and analyzing it for different things. Text-based discussions in class is like when you turn and talk to your neighbor and talk about what was just read to you, or what you read. Vocabulary, I've touched on already, it's extensive. And application activities are activities that the students will do based on what was just instructed, so they get extra practice.
And within each teacher edition, within each lesson, what I really liked about this program in particular, it provides scaffolding on the moment differentiation. So for students that need that extra support that aren't necessarily reading at grade level, it makes sure that students are referring back to the text as they look for each story element. So it gives a note to the teacher to make sure that those students then have what they need. And then it also provides a challenge for those students that are on grade level and may require some enrichment or a bit of a challenge within each lesson. They have that as well. So here it's ask individual students to explain how Kate's personal narrative answers the 5 W questions, which is the who, what, where, when, why. So this is nice because sometimes students need enrichment depending on what unit they're in, and sometimes they're going to need the flip side of that and offer support. So every lesson has this included in it. So we're looking at this, and what's nice about their embedded assessment and their targeted instruction, there's a reason why it's a circle. It's because it's a continuous cycle of support and accountability. So students start with benchmark tests. They have daily checks with the teacher, and this would be the tier 1. This would be the classroom instruction. They have formative assessments within the lessons. There's a mid-unit assessment, so that halfway point to check for understanding. So when a teacher is doing a unit, let's say on fairy tales, and she's checking for understanding, and if the majority of the students don't pass that mid-unit assessment, that signals to the teacher to go back and reteach the skills that the students didn't understand. And then again, at the end, there's a unit assessment. So what's wonderful is look at all the data that parents would be able to also see within the grading system as well. So it's able for the teachers to use it in real time, and then also gives parents an anchor to know how their child's doing in reading.
So this next slide is all about decodable texts, which is what Amplify uses for their instruction. So decodable texts are texts that students students only read words that they've already been instructed on. So they get this extra practice using their skills in their small groups, and the teachers can, provide support on concepts that the students might be understanding, like they might not understand digraphs. So, which are two letters that make one sound. So the teacher could give extra instruction on that. What we have been using for the most part is leveled texts, which are not totally decodable. There are some decodable words in them, but there are also words that the students have not had instruction on how to read the words. So for that reason, I think that decodable texts are going to be more beneficial for our students to be able to really hone in on their decoding skills.
So as we touched on before, some of the background knowledge pieces, we're now going to move into more of the 3-5 strand and what that looks like integrated. So the integrated instruction for grades 3, 4, and 5, complex text. When we're talking about complex text, we're referring to how to activate students' prior knowledge, and it also stimulates curiosity. So it gets the kids excited about what they're about to do. That closed reading again, that's reading and rereading the text. It also includes at this level like author's purpose, some of the vocabulary knowledge, and also like text structure. When you're looking at nonfiction text, when you're getting into the real science and social studies, all of those text elements play an important role in comprehension and have students understanding that. And then also those collaborative conversations. Speaking and listening is one of the first forms of comprehension. That's why it's so important and it's in here. That's where you would see something like a Socratic circle. Teachers would be modeling. This is what my reading brain is telling me. What about you? And putting kids in groups and modeling how they should be talking about pieces of work, whether that be a piece of fiction or a nonfiction text. And then of course they have writing, response to literature. At this stage, it's and beyond, it's really 5 types. So you're looking at making predictions, questioning, clarifying, making connections, and having opinions about a piece, but then being able to back those opinions up. You can't just say, I don't like this. Well, why don't you like this piece? Or why don't you agree with the author and what the author is saying here about the Civil War? And then also looking at the vocabulary, self-explanatory, morphology, word structure. So that's really about how a sentence comes together. A simple example of morphology, suffixes. When you add an S onto something, it then makes it a plural, and having students understand that. And then usage, grammar, and mechanics. So the writing components are part of the 3, 4, and 5.
And this is what a sample of the reading and writing process would be. So the students would start either listening or reading to a text. Then they would go and discuss it with their friends in class. Then they would start to make a plan about what they're going to write. And then finally, they're going to write it.
And this is all based on mentor text. So if the student's being asked to write a personal narrative, they are then reading a personal narrative before they write their own. And what's nice about this program, it offers handwriting at the younger levels, so at Bakey, but Memorial, it would offer cursive handwriting, and it comes with the program and what's included in the cost that's in your folder. And what's nice about this is they just signed into law a House bill that Sununu signed that as of July 1, we have to teach handwriting and cursive in our elementary schools. So this checks that box for us nicely.
That's great.
And then we come to our intervention piece, which as a former special ed teacher, I find very exciting. The book on the left is for 4th and 5th grade teachers to help students who are still struggling with decoding and spelling. And then the part on the book on the right is for kindergarten. They have a remediation guide to help those kindergarten kids fine-tune their skills and get extra practice. this would be done during our WIN block or our intervention block.
So in the quote, you'll see from the company, I know it says draft on it, but it is the quote. What the teachers, when they went and visited Rochester, were most excited about was this M-class intervention. And I promised them if the board asked me to present tonight, that I would include parts of this, and it would be part of the quote for us to look at. So right here, it does the heavy lifting of data analysis, grouping, and preparation of those targeted lessons. So again, the students would take their dibbles, look at those measured skills. The computer would, within minutes, group the students according to the skills that are needed or the skills that are missing. It would generate lessons for each of those skills for the teacher or the interventionist. Then the teacher could teach the students, and then the students would provide practice. So this goes in a 10-day cycle.
So this is a screenshot of what the results of the dibbles might be for one student. So we have vocabulary in the bottom and the comprehension on the top, all leading to its reading comprehension. But the orange parts are the parts that the student needs help in. So the M-class takes that information and then combines it with other students, other students to group kids together. So you can see at the bottom that each group has 4 students, and then a new matrix comes up on the top. The exciting thing is that if you move one of those students from one group to another group, it automatically rearranges all of those hexagons so that that new student in the group, their skills will be integrated with the other students' skills.
And pops up new lesson plans for the teacher, which is incredible.
So this is an example of a 10-day lesson plan. They're called bursts. And these lessons are targeted exactly towards what the group needs, 4 or 5 students. And the interventionists or the classroom teachers can print this right out, and everything is included within the program. So we don't need to go outside of the program for resources for intervention. It's all included in there, and it's really nicely laid out. You do this first, then you do this next, all through the 10 days.
And then to kind of wrap up a little bit, really looking at the top 10 curriculum topics that are part of K-5. You have astronomy and space, immigration, engineering and technology, animals, ecology and ecosystems, classic children's fiction. We also have historical fiction, contemporary realistic fiction, and U.S. history, culture, and civics, as well as folk stories, fables, and fairy tales. And then the last one, of course, is basically human biology, health, and nutrition. So combining all of those science, social studies, and literature strands together.
And this is something that Amplify provided for us. It's from Ed Reports, and it meets all of the guidelines that Ed Reports sets. You can see that they're all highly rated. All of the numbers are really close to the end of the right side. And we have put together a, like Christine said earlier, a Google Doc that has links to different things that we talked about, and it includes a link to the Ed Reports for Amplify and the other programs that we were looking at.
So for the board to review. That concludes our presentation. Are there any questions? Sure. Yeah. Go back to our mics. Go back to your mics, yes.
I don't have any questions for either of you, but I have a huge thank you. This is a lot of work, and the approach that you all went through this, sourcing from the teachers, the study groups, reaching out to a fellow school, figuring out how to get where we are right now is a boatload of work. So thank you all for doing it. This will pay dividends moving forward into the future for these children. So thank you for doing that work. It's appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead, Maura.
I have a question on, it showed, like the two,
Lights.
like the 2 60-minute blocks, then it went to 120 and then down to 90. How does that work in a classroom? Is it, are they doing that like 90 minutes together, or like, how does that take place in a school day?
So I think it's going to depend on the schedules.
Yeah.
So right now, some of them are separated out, so it might not be the full 90 minutes
Right.
because of lunch, or the students may have to go to a gym class or art class.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the grade level and depends on the building
Right.
and what the needs are. So I would say from what I've seen, and they're just in draft schedules right now, nothing is like the full 120 minutes. And I think they did that on purpose to make sure the kids had a break in between.
Well, and that's kind of what I was thinking. Isn't there, I don't know what a child's attention span is, but I feel like it's not 90 or 120 minutes. So it is kind of,
Or even 60 at little, like
Right.
kindergartners.
right? Well, yeah.
Right.
So,
And the program notices that too. So within the program and the lesson, there's like built-in pieces. So the kids are not just sitting there listening to the teacher for, a full 60 minutes. They get up and they move to a group, or then they change activity.
yeah.
So they kind of understand
Yeah.
where developmentally a kindergarten's attention span is versus a fifth grader. Sometimes it doesn't vary, but it's okay.
Okay.
Sometimes we struggle to pay attention as well.
And I know something that was really important that they talked about when we met with Rochester was Amplify takes into account cognitive load. So that is a huge piece that they take into account when they created this program. So it may sound like a long time, but the way they've designed the program, it's not supposed to overload them. So that is, it's
Mhm.
not, the program is done differently than we're used to our kids being taught.
Mhm.
It's a very different approach. The way they have it set up, it's the science behind it is really pretty amazing. I've started doing more research into the science of reading and all of that. I've started getting into some books about it, and they really take that into account. So it's not like your traditional, what you're used to seeing your kids do at school. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different. Cognitive load is a huge piece that they take into
Mhm.
account in all of their lessons. So.
Okay.
Heather.
I had a question. So I saw that they do small group work, but do they make the kids go around and read aloud? Like I know when I was a kid, like they would make everybody read, and like I feel like for kids with learning disabilities and whatnot, that can be really overwhelming.
If they're having them read, it's in a very small group with a
Okay.
teacher. So it wouldn't be something where there's 25 students in the class and a student who would struggle would be made to read like round robin. No.
Okay.
That's a good question though.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, first, being someone with a liberal arts background, I love the content. It's really exciting to see the amount of just the variety of content that's there, the range of subject matters that are being covered, getting kids excited about science while they're doing reading, right? That's all the integration there is hugely important. So I love that. You mentioned something about being able to, at every level, always being able to decode every word in the reading. Did I catch that right?
Yes. It's something that they work on, especially at the primary level.
Yep.
So the K2 level, they work hard in decoding. So when students come across a word later on, they can actually sound it out so they know what the word actually is.
So yeah, so I wanted to clarify. I think I knew what you meant by that, but what I like about that is that it doesn't mean that the student will have seen that word before, right? But it's always the case that they'll have the tools to get at that word, even if it's a reach, which it should be, right? They should always be reaching for harder words, right? So that's really exciting because, we've talked before about the strategies that a student uses to get out a word they don't know, and how important it is to be able to use tools to sound out a word or to figure it out versus recognizing it through context or other signals. Last question. There are some components that are really advanced and innovative, right? Like the hexagons and all that stuff. What kind of a learning curve is there for teachers to adopt that stuff? Is there training that comes with it? How does that work?
So on page 4, the quote actually has PD and shipping and handling. I asked for the full book of professional development over the next 3 to 4 years, not only to account for teacher turnover, but to give our teachers the best shot possible. So looking at the first one, Amplify CKLA, year 1 onsite, in August, they would receive a 6-hour training that would just review the program. And then by October, they would be able to then have, okay, well, we're going to start looking at, let's look at M-Class and how would you use that intervention piece. So every piece that's in the program, there's a training for. And then also in here, you'll see small group instruction or coaching. That's all part of the bigger 1-year onsite as well. And then there's coaching broken down year 2 and year 3. So either as we get new teachers or teachers still might not be secure in certain areas, because teaching phonics and phonemic awareness and decoding is not easy. So making sure that they're strong, they have the skills and they feel confident that they can supply that proper instruction to the students is key. So making sure we give them what they need, whether that be a coach from Amplify coming in or providing a larger training. Also, our interventionists would be trained. And on here, you will see that there's initial training for leaders. So that means all of us would be receiving training as well. The principals, the assistant principals, anyone that works K-5 would be receiving training. So that way, if they're in a room to do an evaluation, and then they have that evaluation feedback, that principal and assistant principal would then know how to provide that extra support for teacher X or during PLCs, etc. So I actually met with her today and I had her add a couple more just as a buffer.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So kind of with that, I don't know how teachers, when I think of elementary school, I think of all the cool bulletin boards and like everything they put up in their classroom. How does that relate back to, and I don't know how they come up with what they're doing, but with this new program, are they going to need to get, completely new graphics on their boards? And what is the work going to be like for them? Are they going to have enough time to prepare for these bulletin boards? And also, are they going to need new materials? And is there a way that, we can ensure that we're supporting them through this and that they have all the materials they need? I'm very happy to hear that you say that we're going to get the most training we can, because I think that's really important.
So a lot of the materials are included in the program.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like bulletin boards or extras, I don't think we know that yet until we're in the thick of it.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think that's why really spending the next few years in PLCs talking about what's further needed and building budgets around that to make sure that this program is fully supported through the fidelity and implementation pieces to make sure the teachers have what they need.
Okay.
So yeah, some of it's going to be a shift, but some of the pieces they already teach at certain grade levels anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I know kindergarten, for example, teaches plants, a unit on plants. So it might not be the same time of year that they originally taught it, but it's still something that they already have. So they may have, to your point, some of those bulletin board items.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's anything that they need for visual for their classroom, I think we look at some of these strands and we look at these themes, these topics that I provided for you. And then we really look at, well, what are you missing?
Mm-hmm.
We even had conversations, and the teachers, our lead teachers, when we had the reading committee, had some great conversations around, well, what do we do with our leveled libraries?
Mm-hmm.
How can we still utilize them? And a great idea came up. Well, let's separate them out by theme and topics. So let's give, farming and plants to kindergarten. So that way students would still have access to other books. I mean, yes, there's stuff within the program, but that way students could bring a book home on farming if they wanted to, because they just learned about it in class today. So trying to think outside the box for some of those pieces, but I think we're not going to know, to your point, everything that's needed until we dive in with both feet, and then we're going to assess and get anything else that they need to make sure it's successful.
And so to that, I would just say, as a school board member, I want to make sure we support whatever needs there might be. And if there, you know, I hope that there's an open line of communication. If there's something that the school board, and maybe I'm speaking for myself, if there's something that we can do, we want to make sure that, you know, we're able to support this program.
And if you'd like, that's something that we can visit at ISA for every meeting, and I can get some feedback from the elementary principals, assistant principals, and Karen, and the literacy specialists, and we can do that. So we're constantly on top of it, especially before budget season.
Okay.
We can do that.
Yep.
That way, because we'll know it, but that way you will as well.
Okay.
And that question did come up when we met with the teachers. You know, they said, you know, what happens if we need funding for something? And Jamie basically said, if you need something and it's going to support our students, we're going to find a way to fund it. So, I mean, that was the answer. So, I mean, it's important to make sure that our teachers have what they need so that they can be successful, our students can be successful. So, you know, we'll do what we can to shift things around and find some funding.
And, you know, to that point too, we may be surprised at how much we already have.
Yes.
It's just, a lot of this is about alignment, standardization, right? I've seen the digraph flashcards come home already. You know, those are, you know, so I think that there's probably a lot of pieces of this that are happening. It's just the alignment and of all those.
So I know we have, you know, the most amount training days, but are we really going to be prepared to start this in the fall if we approve it now and they only have 2 days of training in August? Like, I just worry
Yes.
about the cognitive load on our teachers.
So I asked that question with the company as well, and yes. So what we're going to do is, if this is approved, CKLA, we already spoke to them, and they would give the teachers their full online access almost immediately. We've also allocated time, and we didn't know which reading program at that point, but allocated time within our extra June days for the teachers to actually meet as teams, delve into those units, and actually plan out their first units for the month of September and possibly October.
Okay.
So trying to provide them with enough
That's good.
time to do that. We have 3 days in August. One of them would be dedicated to getting their feet in the program. And then the next training would then be, okay, how do you scaffold?
Okay.
So it builds on top of each other, and they're willing to send in coaches if they need a coach, or they're very good about, you know, meeting with us once a week or every other week to make sure that we're on track, and then anything that we need, which is nice. A lot of other programs didn't really have that.
Well, as someone who has implemented many initiatives in my
Yes.
career, yes, that is not something that usually happens. So that's good to hear.
Jamie.
So I have a question, not a question, but a comment on one of your comments that I just wanted to make. You mentioned that there's concern about world religions and that there's a way to get around that. I would highly argue we ought not be getting around that for 2 reasons. One is the history of the world without discussing religion is not the history of the world. And in particular, in the Western society of which we're a culture, you can't have any understanding or general concepts as to what came before and how we got to where we are without understanding the basics. And I'd just like to clarify, when you're talking world religions, it's not like you're talking evangelically saying, this is Christianity and this is how you get saved, or this is Judaism and this is how you get saved. It is, these religions exist in the world and they have been impactful in the world. And we're not asking teachers to teach about the details of the religion. We're asking them to just go over what is in the reading material in front of them. So I wanted to be specific about that. The other aspect of that concerns me is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So you start going down that route of
Religious
saying,
metaphor.
I want to supplant this, I want to supplant that. You're going to find a situation where you're no longer having fidelity to the program. And absent the fidelity of the program, you're not going to see some of the benefits that we are seeing from both the researching and from the feedback that we're getting from the different organizations involved. So I guess I got a question for the chair. That was a comment for you guys. Should we go into all the discussions that we want to have at this now, or are we focusing just on questions and comments on the presentation?
I guess that's a good question.
I think that,
We probably should.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I had a
Yeah.
couple things I'd like to say, and then maybe to have deliberations once there's a motion. Would that be okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Is that acceptable to you as the chair?
Christine?
So to actually piggyback off of what, and I'm very happy to hear you say that, Jamie, because the last thing I want to do is not use the program with fidelity. I think from the teacher's perspective, and I don't want to speak for them, but I think they're going to be looking to us to make sure that we give it the green light, because they don't want to get any slack from the parents. So I think it's more of a nervousness that makes sure we support them through ISA, through the school board, to say you're supported to teach this entire program as is, or if there are parts that come up and we have to bring it to ISA, I think just procedurally, it would make them feel 1,000 times better to know that we all support them when something like that would come up. I don't want to replace anything either, because I, like you, truly believe like really teaching that Western civilization component is extremely important as they go through school. It's part of the literary canon. It helps them on the SATs, etc. So there's a reason why they chose what they chose. It has a rationale. So I just think that if we go with everything, I just want to make sure that we have something procedurally so the teachers feel like we support them.
I think
Yep.
that I agree with that, because I think unfortunately we live in a culture where teachers are afraid to teach certain topics or have
Right.
certain conversations, and religion can be politics, religion. Those are two
Yep.
touchy conversations. So I do agree that we should keep fidelity, but I also think we should be supporting our teachers and having policies in place that
Well,
this is what we want
The
taught.
teachers should understand, to that point, the teachers should understand this is a curriculum being promulgated by the administration and the board, and they will have 100% backing for teaching that curriculum.
Yep.
And they have absolutely the right, if parents are getting concerned in any way, shape, or form, that's not the teachers to fall on that sword and deal with it. I am teaching the curriculum. If you have questions with the curriculum, please see the curriculum director, the administration, or talk to your board member. This is the program that we have decided to do, and I am implementing it faithfully, as I should be. They should have our complete support for that.
I was going to ask that question of who will make the final decision if something would be supplemented.
I think I would bring any question like that to ISA, and then
Okay.
ISA would bring it to the board.
So if there's something comes up in the curriculum, and procedurally too, kind of to Jamie's point, to make sure that we have this backing, that, maybe we already brought this through, but ISA committee made the decision or something like that, that there's someone that will make that decision to switch it. Or if it doesn't get switched, obviously, we're going to back the teachers and we'll fall on the sword.
I think for full
It'll be
transparency,
a PR issue.
anything that's questioned, I would bring to ISA and the board.
Yeah. Okay.
It would not be it's not a principal's choice or a teacher's choice. It would really be something that is decided by the school board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if I could just make a,
Hold on, I just want to see, Rick.
Yeah, my understanding, and thanks for the presentation. My understanding is there was 3 options, right? Good, better, and best. Correct? I did some remedial research.
Simplified, yeah.
Simplified, right?
Yep.
We're choosing the best. We're not choosing the easiest.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So the speed bumps are going to have to be removed. So I agree 100% with everything everybody just said. Like we are going to have to remove the obstacles because it's going to be hard. The parents are going to have to get behind it because the kids are going to be challenged, as they should be.
That's right.
So, like, it's our job to remove the obstacles.
So I just wanted to say that, I've been, for those of you maybe in the public who don't know me as well as some of you on the board or the administration or teachers, I have spent the better part of 20 years studying the teaching of reading, which is a little bit unusual for a superintendent. It just kind of naturally happened. My mother-in-law taught reading for 40 years in kindergarten, and we used to go on vacation together and talk about reading the whole vacation. Drive my father-in-law, who was a third grade teacher, and my wife, who was a middle school teacher, nuts. I love it. I have spent months and months and months of my life at Teachers College at Columbia University learning about the process of teaching reading. I was a K-2 principal for 5 years, and the academic achievement in the K-2 school that I ran improved dramatically under the programs that we adopted. If you had asked me 4 months ago if I wanted to go in this direction, my answer would have been no. Absolutely no way. And I had to be open-minded and participate in a process the same that we've asked everyone else to do, to learn about the program sincerely. And I still wasn't sure even 3 or 4 weeks ago. But what I saw when I went to Rochester and then when I met with the other people completely convinced me that this is the right way to go. And I'll tell you why. Number one is the emergence of new research. The new research is showing that students can comprehend verbally 2 years ahead of what they can read. And that's why they're bored. They're reading things that are super boring. This is the first time I've seen any approach that might close the gap with video games. And the reason why is that the kids are so engaged in the topics that they want to do the reading. And that's what they saw in Rochester. So that's the first piece. The second piece is the explicit instruction in phonics. The explicit instruction in phonics helps students to decode even things that they don't understand. That is very, very important because we have high school students right now who cannot do that. I'm working on my doctorate at Northeastern University, and the subject of my thesis is the teaching of reading at the high school level. And all I can say to you is that this program will address a lot of things that we're having problems with at our high school today. The third thing that I was very impressed by was, in all my years of working in public education, I have never seen a process that provided ongoing feedback and support to teachers by providing accurate assessment in a timely manner that gives them data that drives instruction. So what does that mean? That's all fancy edu speak. What that means is the kids take a really quick test that tells them, it's called DIBELS. And what the DIBELS test does is it tells the teacher what they know and don't know, and then they can be grouped immediately. We don't have to wait for NWA to send us reports. We don't have to wait for the state data. It's instantaneous, and the kids are put in groups together based on their deficits and their skills. I've never seen anything like it. Do I think it's going to be easy to learn? Absolutely not. It is going to be a huge lift for our organization. We are going to ask a tremendous amount of our teachers and administrators to do this right. And we're going to have to be patient. The first year is called an implementation year. There's always an implementation dip. Year 2, things will get a little bit better because they've been through it once. Year 3, people are going to be cooking. Year 4, people will really be cooking. Rochester's in year 2, and they're already seeing great results. Now, granted, they started in the pandemic, which was really tricky. But I have to say that I am completely in support of Christine and Karen's proposal to adopt this program. And before you deliberate, I just want to be clear that you'll see on this document for the purchase that I just want to make sure and give kudos where they're due. The original purchase price for this was $450,000. Christine has worked with Amplify collaboratively and Karen to get the price down to $305,000 for 8 years, including all the PD. That is phenomenal. So I just wanted to thank the two of you for when they told me this morning how far, I thought they got it down 75,000 when they brought it in again and said, no, we got another 75 off.
You need a couple more weeks to get it down lower?
Yeah, well, I was kind of, my next question is, what do we do for middle school? You know, like, can we get them to roll that in too? But we'll start here. And I just want to strongly recommend, even though I was completely hesitant, what I've seen is a step in the right direction, and I'm really excited to see what it does. And personally, I can't wait to learn about the program myself. I want to know, how does it work or not work? And where are the issues? And I'm truly incredibly excited to use this unique combination of oral comprehension, direct skill instruction, and technology to guide our kids to a much higher level of rigor than kids have seen in any time that I've ever worked in a school. I mean, the level of rigor is unbelievable, and our teachers are nervous about that. And I don't blame them. The Rochester teachers said we were super nervous. We spoke to a number of people who started with the program and were totally terrified. But after they got into it for 4 months, they were like, this is amazing. These kids are doing this. So that's what sold me, was the teachers. So that's where I am. So I support it completely. And I just wanted you to hear that before you deliberate.
Just real quick, since we mentioned that it's 305,000, can you just briefly explain where the funds?
Yeah. Thankfully, we have been very conservative with our ESSER funding. And this money falls under the category of helping to help student achievement that was impacted during the pandemic. So we're going to use federal funds from ESSER to pay for the program completely. No tax impact, zero. Thank you.
This is over 8 years. The only thing that we need to purchase are the workbooks and the student licenses each year, just like for the math program. So very similar, but the majority, the biggest chunk of this has been done. But again, it would just be those smaller portions that the students, the consumable workbook.
Do you have any estimate of the cost annually for that?
I do not, but I can get that for us.
It's okay.
BJ?
I have a quick question about the enrichment, like parts of the assignment. So are those like, are those supposed to be optional, not optional for every assignment, or is that a different levels, like the K-2 is different than the 3 to 5, or is that a teacher by teacher thing? Like, how does that work?
That's a great question. So it's in each lesson, K to 5,
Mhm.
and it's really up to the teacher and the students. So the teacher might give the students in the class, let's say there are 5 students who could use enrichment. She might give them 1 or 2 different options, and it might be if you want to as an extra, like a homework assignment, or she or he may require them to do that. So it's something they have K-5 as an option. It's nothing that's required for their set grade.
Thank you.
Is that part of like this? I see this take home dear family member page.
So what that is, it's nice. Every lesson, every unit actually will have a dear parents. So what's wonderful about this is it informs the parents as to what their students will be learning in their language arts class. And then what's nice too is it shows them what to do at home and some resources that they can pull up for additional support for their kids.
So to kick us off in the deliberations, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the core knowledge language arts, otherwise known as Amplify, as our reading program for the district with the early grades.
For K through 5?
For K through 5.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, discussion?
So I'll start, I guess. I spent tens and tens of hours on this, a lot of questions, a lot of time with Christine, with Karen, with teachers, with the Rochester folks.
Hey, what about me? You spent a lot of time talking to me too.
Yeah, he always
I'm
spends time with you.
highlighting the good things, only the good things. And so
Okay, I was saying.
so when I first went through this, I asked for all the different books. I had a week of available time on my hands. I did the books for all 3 programs. I met with Karen and Christine. I asked them to give me information. They gave me all the information about all the different things. And I went and I reviewed those items.
But they didn't tell you their opinion.
No, I was going to say that they gave me their opinion only after when I asked about it, when I had a better knowledge of the program itself. And I spent a lot of time on the different programs. And I really like the addition of the science and the history. When we started looking at curriculum, we got our knees cut out from underneath us with COVID. Math is our worst performing subject, so we went after a math curriculum. We got a math curriculum in. Reading is key. And to expand upon the kind quote that Dawn said, because she didn't want to exactly quote me, what I said to the teachers was, look, I'm probably the cheapest SOB on the board.
He did.
But that said, if our kids can't read at grade level, the vast majority of them, then we are doing it wrong. And whatever funds are needed will have to be rearranged to allow us to do that. We currently have situations in K through 2 where only 40% of the students are at grade level reading. And so I'll quote the good superintendent here. From K to 3, you learn to read. From 3 to 12, you read to learn. If we have not put the vast majority of our kids in a situation to be able to build on that reading level coming out of K through 2, we have set them up for some very difficult times going forward. You mentioned that, reading in high school, and I imagine you probably get some feedback saying they already know how to read when they get in high school. We shouldn't be facing that in high school. If they left second at only 40% at grade level, they're not going to be able to succeed in school. Now, we have a lot of kids that do succeed in school very, very well. They would be in that 40%. They wouldn't be in the 60%. When we talked to Rochester had some classes, not the entire grade, but they had some classes that they started the school year at 51% at reading level. By the winter, middle of the school year, they're at 68. By the end of the school year, they're at 86. 1 year. When you ask the teachers how that can be possible, I'm not sure I believe in this data. What can you tell me about this? They said, couldn't believe it either. They actually said at one point in time that their intervention people were coming in and saying, we're not sure what we should be doing next because everybody's still in the tier 1. They're being brought up on the tier 1. So they were finding, when you push them, that the children were capable of absorbing so much more than they ever expected. And that's why they were very concerned at the start of this, as Superintendent Ambrose has pointed out, as to the rigor and the involvement. And they were shocked and delighted, and you could see the delight. I mean, they're true converts to the program. You could see the delight in their faces when they were talking as to what the benefits are. So that all came after. When I was first looking at it, one of the things that got me the most was every single section has a Dear Parent and Guardian program where it provides to the parents and the guardians, this is what we are studying. But not only this is what we're studying, this is what you can do at home to support us teachers. This is what you can do to help your child to read. And they give them sing-songy ditties, and they give them different things to read. They give them things for engagement. I don't know about the rest of people. When kid comes in a car and you say, what'd you do at school today? Nothing. Well, I don't have any information to go with other than nothing. Well, you must have done something. All the same stuff. This engages parents. And I suggested to the superintendent when we're first in kindergarten and we're getting the first names ever as to who's going to be in our kindergarten classes, we have a mandatory discussion as the expectations that we as a district have on parents to help us to teach your children to read. And for that matter, to do math, so that there's a better chance. And that should get, because some parents just have no idea. I was one, I had no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. What's my role in this game? We have a captive audience in kindergarten. They're reaching out saying, I got a kid here. I got to do something. It's like August. I think I got to do something with this kid in September. What do I do? You get them and draw them in early. And if we can get more teachers, more parents involved, that will do immense benefit to the teachers. The more parents that are involved, the better that's going to be for the teachers and for their ability to drive the class. So when I went through this originally, I looked at, I discounted open court because that just didn't meet the criteria. The other two I looked at, it was very clear to me that core knowledge language arts was the better program. One of the questions I asked was, we need to make sure that our kids are going to be able to do it. If we fail all of our kids, then we didn't gain anything. And then I found out some further details that 40% are right now not reading. So notwithstanding the hard work, the dedication, the drive, what we're doing isn't working for the majority of our students. It has to change. We need a program that will allow them to read. And again, even if you didn't have the ESSER funds, and even being the cheapest SOB that I know, I'd still find a way to fund this. Doesn't mean I'd increase taxes. I'd find a way to fund it. There's decisions that would have to be made. But readings is a prerequisite to everything. It has to be the focus. So I'm 1,000% in favor of this and in favor of the teachers. I think the teachers are going to come to be the biggest champions of this, and I think they're going to hit it out of the park. And thank you, Christine, and thank you, Karen.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you for spending so much time on the program. You and Don looking at the program, reviewing all the materials, meeting with the teacher leaders. It's greatly appreciated and made all the difference.
Thank you. So I have notes and notes and notes and notes and notes, but I'm not going to go into all of that because there's just too much. This program, it's what our kids need right now. The science behind it is solid. The key is introducing science, history, different ideas early. You plant a seed now, it piques their interest. They start doing research on their own. They start reading books. That's where we take, and that's the teachers are concerned. What do we do with our leveled libraries? Okay, we take them and we group them by topic. And you say during their free time, there are books over here if you want to learn more. But then they get to middle school. That's not a new topic anymore. They've already heard about it before. So their interest is already piqued. It's easier for them to engage when they're in middle school and high school if they've already been exposed to it when they're younger. That's a huge, huge piece. A lot of the really early K2, it's a lot of read 2, which is extremely important because we have the way things are now. It's not the way it was when we were kids. We are running around as parents nonstop, getting our kids here, getting our kids there. And there isn't all the time to sit down and read with your kids. Not everybody prioritizes that time. So if it's not happening at home, it really needs to happen. This program takes and it makes it happen. So if they're not getting it at home, they're getting it at school. It's the key. It's the key to their success. There's so much that goes into it. I can't even vocalize it all right now. But this is, in my opinion, the next right step for our kids. It's what they need. I had my niece come to me, and she's, high honor student. And she goes, Auntie, we didn't get taught how to capitalize and punctuate and, grammar, really create sentences well. She said, and it makes being a really great student hard. She said, we got a Chromebook put in front of us, and the Chromebook did all the correcting for us, so we didn't learn it. This program will teach our students that they need so they can be successful as they grow. They'll be successful in school. They'll be successful out of school. It's what they really need. So I am 100% on board with this. I know there are going to be growing pains. I asked about scaffolding. Amplify will work with us to help scaffold because we're obviously going to have students, when you're talking 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, they haven't had all of that prior knowledge. So they'll work with us to scaffold to make sure that our students can get caught up. So it's not going to be on the teachers to figure it out. Amplify will help us figure it out. So in Rochester, they couldn't say enough about how much support they got from Amplify. They're like, we know that there are so many other schools that they deal with, but we feel like we're the only one. Anytime we have a question, they answer the phone. If they don't have an answer right there, they get it for us. The customer service is second to none. And that is hugely important because when you're trying to teach kids, you need answers. You need good answers, and they are all over it. It sounds like they truly care about the program they've created. And I really am hopeful that we can take this on and we can be super successful with it. All right. Anybody else? All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
All right.
All right, unanimous.
you.
Thank
you,
you very
Christina.
much.
Very great
all the
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Okay. On to boring stuff. Approval of audit engagement letter. Max.
How much more boring can audits be?
Oh, that's why I said boring, boring, boring.
And they could be, you could talk about
Yeah, I can talk for hours about it.
it. Give you a couple more before you go.
All right. So I'm asking the board to authorize the chairman to sign the engagement letter that starts off the audit for the financial statement audit for the school district. All right. Our auditor is Vashon Cloquet, and they're in their last year of their contract. And so after this audit is done, we're going to go out to bid again and select another audit firm.
Or them.
I was gonna say, or maybe
If
them
For
again.
them.
We're gonna select-
Yeah.
Reselect.
Is this a yearly thing that we have done?
Yes, this is a yearly.
I don't remember this.
No,
so-
the audit's yearly, but selecting the company isn't.
No, I knew this.
Yeah, right.
But I don't
Okay.
remember us
I don't
voting on
remember.
this last year.
Agreed. They were late last year. They pushed a lot of stuff through. Okay. I've been on top of them this year. I said, I want the engagement letter now so I can put it before the school board, and they got it to me. I'm trying to get this audit pushed through.
So I just recommend, as I have before, they should understand part of their deliverables is in areas of improvement from what they audit. That we expect that from them. They didn't do it the first year. We had to push hard the second year. That's really part of what an audit is supposed to do, is to say, here are some weaknesses that we think you could strengthen up your systems on. Here's some recommendations. Then we decide whether to follow those recommendations. But at least they should be providing us that deliverable. So the board, a lot of what they provide is very detailed and massively boring and hard to understand if you're not a financial auditor. So did you find weaknesses or not? If you did, what were they? So then we have something to deal with.
Like an executive summary.
Yeah.
Okay. So to that, there's 3 deliverables. The first one is the audited financial statements. The second one is the governance letter. That governance letter talks about the difficulties they had auditing the district, and it goes directly to the school board. The third thing is the management letter. Okay. The management letter is what Jamie was speaking about. Those are the identifications of any internal weaknesses. We've posted all of those documents on the district's website.
So make a motion to approve the approval of the audit engagement letter.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
All right.
All right, unanimous. All right, Dr. Kennett, special education transportation.
And center.
Glad you stuck it out this long, good sir.
Oh, my pleasure. All right. Well, thank you for giving me this time. So part of me moving into this position, Mr. Ambrose asked me to assess everything, look at everything we have. And during this year, we've placed out some students into out-of-district placements. And with that, you have a placement cost and you have a transportation cost. Those costs are going up as everybody else's costs are going up. So in looking at the students that we are placing out, one's in process, and looking at the expected transportation costs that that's going to create, the transportation side is looking at anywhere between $165,000 and $220,000 beyond what was budgeted. So trying to come up with a creative way to address that, Mr. Ambrose asked me to look at options. So in the sheet that's in your packet, we looked at a couple different ideas. What if we were purchasing a van, right? What if we could do something on our own? Not the whole thing, something. And what would be the value of that? So if we were to have a van and we could pick up one kid, because we're also finding it hard to find people to do the transportation. If we could get the van and get a person, what would that cost? What would we save? So you have the breakdown in here. I won't read it all to you. That's okay. But bottom line, if we were to get a van and have the chance to transport even one student, you'd save about $17,443 year one. You could put two kids on that same vehicle, $71,440. And it just goes up from there. What I'm asking for, because I'm trying to be responsible with the budget and what you're asking me to do, is an opportunity to have the chance to try to save some money. But without a vehicle, I don't have a chance. So some of these students are in process of getting placed, but if I don't have something to utilize, I can't take the opportunity. I can't try. So what I guess I'm requesting from you is the opportunity to purchase that van out of this year's funds that we have in excess. The opportunity to do that. There are other uses of a van. We all know that. We've talked about those things, but this one is a chance to try to save money. We have our contracts, and those contracted people for, Durham and Salt, all these transportation companies, but they're finding it harder and harder to meet our need too. So as part of my entry plan was to assess the budget and give you options. And this is one of the first options that I'm going to give you as far as money saving possibilities.
And the good thing is Troy came tonight so that if you wanted to think about it for 2 weeks, you weren't painted into a corner on the 21st, right? Like, we recognize that this is a kind of an unusual ask, but we also are having success at placing these students out of district. And when he told me that the transportation for an out of district student is as much as $54,000 for one, and I know he's got 4 more in the pipeline that he's working on placing, it seemed logical to try to pull some of that transportation cost in district.
What does UE mean, not
I'm
including
sorry.
UE?
Unemployment.
Thank you.
And the other question I have is on the first two items, second two columns, van at 54, van at 38. Who's driving that? Because the other one has members driving basically. So who's driving that van for your first two options?
Okay, that would be a paraprofessional at overtime rates. So it didn't include their health insurance because the health insurance is really built in at their non-overtime rate, but it's really $17 an hour times time and a half.
Sure. And that para is somebody that we currently have on staff, or that would be an additional hired para?
It would be, when we were discussing, it would be someone that would be on staff, and that we would be asking that person to work 7 hours and then drive an additional 5 hours on top of that.
That's
5
one
hours in
option.
one day?
Yes.
Well,
That's one option.
That's
Another
one
option would be to hire a part-time person just to draw.
So let me just explain the options. Option one is you split it. You have someone drive in the morning and some different person drive in the afternoon. And that would be 2 different people, so it'd only be 2.5 hours a day. Another option is we just hire someone to drive the van,
Part-time,
part-time.
no
Mhm.
benefits.
Yeah, morning and afternoon. Like someone retired, right? We just put the word out that we need someone to drive this van.
Mhm.
We recognize that.
And utilize the paras as backups.
There you go.
Mhm.
That's another option. Yep. We recognize that we really need to have three drivers for each run, because you go through people pretty quick when people are sick. You know what I mean? So I don't love the idea of bringing transportation things in-house, but when I heard the cost, Troy is spending almost $300 a day for in-district transportation. In-district for students that have special needs. So they're not even going far away. So he's working on this, and this was just the first. We wanted to share with you this idea that theoretically, if you had 5 kids at $54,000 a piece, you buy a van. If he can place them in out-of-district placements that are relatively close to one another, then he could save for all of them. That is like the best possible option.
Yeah.
The second option is he gets 2 or 3 in one area, you're still saving $100,000. So we're just trying to to get ready to start this process of like, I want money going to kids in education, not bus companies, right? But I understand this is a big change, so we just, what we didn't want to do was try to pay for the van out of next year's money.
Mhm.
Because it's going to be tight next year because Troy inherited a budget that he didn't create.
Mhm.
And the board has made it clear that there's been concern that there are students in classrooms that really probably shouldn't be in classrooms. Their behavior is disrupting the learning of everyone. Troy is addressing that problem, and that problem is creating this need. So during these transitory years, while he gets the programming set up and aligns everything, and our teachers are working more efficiently and more effectively, which he's also working on, it's going to be a lot of these kinds of conversations and challenges, and this is the beginning of that transparency.
I just got some mechanical questions. So you got a van at 54, a van at 38. What's the difference?
Okay.
Type of van.
So van at 38 is, I found one, and it was the lowest model of just, it's just like a Dodge Caravan.
Yeah.
And they have different models within that. Okay. So 38,000 is the lowest one, and I only found one. All right. I have found quite a few at 54. Okay. So what I'm saying with the dollar amount is it will range between 38,000 and 54,000. We prefer the 38,000.
So you're giving me a range as to what it might be.
Right. Can I go through some of the other variables that might help you?
Yeah, because you're going to answer the next one I was going to ask. So go ahead.
All right. So we looked at whether to try to hire them in overtime rates. We also looked at them whether they can do it within the 7 hours during the day. So they'd be driving 5 hours and then working 2 hours as a para. And that would be the third column. And the fourth column would be hiring a part-time employee for 5 hours a day that wouldn't have any health insurance or retirement. And obviously the column all the way to the right is the least expensive one. And that's probably the one that we would have to do.
Well, that we would try to do. The problem isn't the opening or the money, it's finding the person.
Well, I just wanted to, that's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
We just can't hire some person to, this van would be for kids that are not able to maintain within the traditional classroom. Like you need someone that's skilled to be able to drive these vans, like not just a, retired, like someone that has experience, because it's,
Agreed.
Yeah.
there could be,
That's a
someone
safety
could get
issue.
hurt if they're not trained.
And exactly. And that the key is to hire someone who can be trained
Okay.
and or hire someone who already knows how.
Mhm.
Those are the two.
And I'm not comfortable with a para driving for 5 hours and teaching for 7, like that. Their burnout rate would be ridiculous.
We agree with that. We just wanted all the options to be transparent and on the table. I think it would be more like a split situation, similar to someone who coaches.
Okay.
They work their day and then they coach for a few hours. A couple hours, 2.5 hours is one thing. 5 hours is a whole other.
I have one more question. How far what schools are we going to? Like, are we going to consortium? Are we going to?
They vary. So a lot of these
like-
students haven't been placed yet. So the ones that
Okay.
we're doing, so I based it on about an hour ride
Okay.
because that's
That's the standard.
that is the standard. So that's where you're going to see it's based on 60 miles hour ride, that type of average.
Okay.
And that's the thing is I don't know where they're going yet.
Okay.
So it's a variable for me.
So you know the students involved. What is your belief as to the number that can be on the van together? Because the van might have, I don't know, seating for 8 or 12. You can't put 8 or 12 if they're special needs people that have behavioral or other issues that would not lead them to be in the regular class. What are you thinking you have, knowing what you're dealing with in terms of capacity on?
It's not uncommon to
Per
have
van.
for long distance type situations 2 to 3.
2
This
to
is
3.
usually the max you're going to see in a long distance situation.
Mhm.
Now, if you've got one person going really short and then the next two going, or, a couple going short and a couple going longer, you might be able to get to 4 because you're picking kids up along the way. But that, I would say 2, 3 is probably the most you're going to probably see at a time,
Yep.
unless we switch which ones we do.
Yep.
Because we do have quite a few students we transport in district as well. So it would, if this was to work, and then we'd have to start looking at what is the best use of our resource versus the contracted resource. And it just becomes a numbers game of what we can do and handle and what makes the most sense.
So Matt, for you, insurance implications?
Our insurance is mostly based upon the valuation of our properties. I don't really believe that this will really move the needle.
But it'll
So-
be
But it'll
covered.
be covered.
It will be covered.
It's got to be covered.
Oh yeah, this is
Yeah, it's like a
absolutely gonna be covered.
liability
Yeah,
insurance.
totally.
I just want everyone to understand our property liability insurance covers school districts and towns throughout the state. We're talking about police departments, fire departments, school departments, all their transportation needs. It may even do sheriff's departments, including all the jails. So all the risk that they assume, this is far within inside that envelope.
Something
Question,
to
though, thank you.
notice also is anyone who's doing this would have, there's a 1-day training that they have to do through the state. It's called a bus certificate training. So it's not just, hey, here's some keys, here's a kid, go have a nice day. That is not how that works. Plus there would be training myself, having trained people to do this myself. There is training that you do by individual student.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And that's the
well.
part Heather was
Right.
concerned about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and right now we're just looking for the opportunity to try.
Looking at the line, looking at an increase of, 220,000, I would make a motion to look at this option.
Second that.
Right, any further discussion?
Potential friendly amendment.
Okay.
If we're going to be out in July and they find the answer in July after looking at it, do we want to have a special board meeting or do we want to authorize if they deem it feasible?
Thank you. I was going to ask if the board would be willing to authorize up to a certain amount to purchase a van. Even if they explore this and it doesn't work, the van that we bought this fall is being utilized a crazy amount of time.
Ton.
How much did we
Tons.
spend on the van this fall? What was the amount?
It was just over 50,000, I believe.
50 range, as I recall.
Yeah.
So
And it's being used for special ed. It's being overused. We could definitely use another van no matter what happens.
And they
So-
paid 17,000 on their savings this year.
So I will amend my motion to move forward researching and authorize business administrator to buy a van up to $54,000.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, we can vote. I think up to 54, I think we should get together. 38.
Well, he said he only found one at 38, the most he found.
And the one we bought this fall was how much?
It was 50.
I mean,
But you have to understand, we're looking at a Dodge Caravan, which
So we're
is
talking caravan.
It's a mini.
yeah, but I can't get
a
a,
minivan.
Yeah,
you're telling me I can't get a van for somewhere in the 40s? Like they don't exist?
they do exist.
I know.
1,000% they exist.
That's why we're new to,
54,000 on a passenger van.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, like
Can we get a passenger van again?
I'm hearing that the rules are changing, and if I recommend that we buy a passenger van, we may have to sell it within a year. I'm
So what does that mean for the passenger van we own?
That's
Yeah.
insane.
well,
That's-
no, that's different. That's going
grandfathered?
okay, it's different. What he's trying to do is what's going to be registered as a school bus, something that goes from a
Okay.
house to the school.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
If we go from parking lot to parking lot, we don't have to register it as a school bus, and the rules are completely different.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
But to Rick's point, if a caravan will meet the need of no more than 2 to 3 people, there's no sense of paying the price
Right.
of a passenger van
Yeah.
to meet that need.
Yeah.
So if you authorize it up to a cap of 38, and then if it goes higher, then you reach out to, like you did last time, I think you reached out to facilities and finance and
facilities.
to bounce it off and before you proceed.
Can I recommend 40?
I was gonna say, can we just
Because-
round it?
I think.
Sure.
Can we do 39.75?
We can do 39.75.
I was
That's fine.
I was actually going to propose that we do 40, and if it ends up coming in between 45 and 48, he talks to the board chair.
Oh, sure, put it on me.
No, I seriously, because what if he finds something? We just got to give some room
Right.
here.
Well, yeah,
unless
we do know, look,
I think that we're locking. I mean, I'm just going to put it on the table. It's trust.
Yeah.
Right. We have to trust that, Matt. I think that the board feels a little nervous that you're saying 38 on the one hand and 54, but we bought a passenger van at 54, and I want to address that issue of trust. That issue of trust is they're saying, look, if you can, we want you to get a $40,000 van.
Yeah.
I'm saying if that doesn't pan out for some reason, it just, in my head, 45 is a lot for a car.
Is it too much of a problem for Matt to check in with the finance, the chair of finance and the chair of?
No, I just normally go to the board chair, so that's why I was saying Don, but we could do the chair of finance. He could work.
I think that's the way we did it before, right?
Sure, that's fine.
I think it cost him about, I don't know, half an hour to make the calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to Matt's credit, I want to be, this is not a matter of trust for me at
Yeah.
all.
Oh,
This
okay,
this is a matter of saying, hey, take an extra 30 minutes and find one for $5,000 cheaper.
Yeah.
This isn't a matter of trust at all. I trust you
Oh,
implicitly.
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
That was very
Yeah.
helpful,
No,
Jeremy.
but I have a,
I wasn't sure, so that
Oh,
was
yeah.
It's just having
Extra
Other-
eyes.
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah.
on it.
I have
Well, it
no
also
problem
doesn't
with
put
that.
the onus on the two of us.
100%.
Sure.
It helps
What
us
if he
and
buys
supports
some
us.
turd? You know what I mean? Like, then we're on a commit and say, that's what you spent the money on?
Yeah.
You should get some other people to just
Yeah,
put their
yeah.
eyes on it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
and
Thank you, Jeremiah.
I know it's almost impossible. Are we to assume that we have as good an understanding of what the need is going to be now? Like if we wait to really understand the logistics of who's going to be where and how many we can double up on here and there, that by the time we understand that, it's going to be too late. We will have already, you know what I mean? Like normally I'd like to identify the need before we
It's because we want to use
understand the
this year's
solution, but we want to
funds.
use this year's
Yeah.
funds.
Yeah.
All right.
But there's a need for the van. What I'm hearing is a need for the van right here, right?
Right.
For at least one or two kids. And then you can use it for other capacity.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. But I
Yeah, look, I'm with you.
something, you know,
I
what I
was
mean.
about to ask him to go model it out for me so I could see how many kids we were going to get on the van, where
Yeah.
they were going, and how many more we could get on there.
Right.
Doesn't sound like we can get more than 3 safely for the driver and the kids.
Right.
So, like we're already at 2 from the model I have
If-
here. I'm okay.
If you add more than 3, you need a bus monitor,
So like that's
which is another staff that you would have to hire.
Right.
We have to, if to use this year's funds, we have to buy it by June 30th. No?
No.
Yeah.
No, we have to encumber it.
You have to
Yes.
encumber it.
So I have to know
means
the
we have-
vendor
Yeah.
and I have to know the vehicle. So if you guys approve this tonight, I'm hustling starting tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
morning.
You already kind of have a short time frame, but this is something that's not going to be going into July.
No,
This question will have an answer by June 30th.
you may even have an answer.
Yeah,
for
I
them.
want to be very clear though, that because I don't want anybody to think that we're trying to spend funds quickly. Okay, so we are going to take time to find the right vehicle at the right price.
Yes.
So you're not finding one tomorrow, probably not finding one next week, and you're going to bring like.
Well, he's already been looking for one.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
want to
in
make sure.
preparation.
It's just, we're not going to be
Yeah.
called to an emergency meeting in July. That's all I
We
was.
may,
trying-
I
Well,
I don't know, hopefully not.
No, we shouldn't.
Yeah, we're not being reckless. We're being calculated.
Yes.
But we're taking advantage of the timeline.
And
that
we
we're
and
in.
look and we
100% remove what I've heard in the past is that we're
the
rushing
year's
to
funding.
spend year-end funds, and that's
Right.
not what we're doing.
Right.
So I want to make sure that's very clear.
So I'll make it super clear so that there's no wiggle room with this. We have a funding issue next year with special ed. A different director developed the budget. The new director has come in and the board has said to the new director, we have concerns. I have said it to him that we have concerns that there are students in classrooms who should not be in classrooms that are disrupting the learning of everyone else, and they're not learning because they need to learn. He is taking action to rectify that problem. And one of the outcomes of dealing with this problem and doing it well is that you have to transport these kids to the out-of-district placements.
Not cheap.
It costs a fortune. Troy has come with a creative solution, and what he is saying is, if the board wants to, it would help the budget next year if we purchase the van this year. And he's also saying that he's spending $300 a day on in-district transportation already. The van, if it doesn't go to the purpose of helping the students out of district, it might actually offset some of our costs in district. Because goodness knows, between the blue bus and all the issues with Durham transportation, we've had transportation problems. It's my opinion that having another van is a prudent expense for the district at this juncture, regardless of where he goes.
Did you say we had promised the blue bus?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Every time I try to be like
So do you
concise.
want
well,
me
I think it's less,
Yeah, so
but the concerns.
thank you very much for listening to the feedback from some of us, and I'm sure parents, that we have kids who are disrupting the classroom. And I think the challenge that the elementary school teachers are going to have ahead of doing a new program, which I think will be great, they're taking on a lot. And I think that we need to do whatever we can to help those teachers. And I can just tell you firsthand from my own children, they're disruptive students. And I thank you for trying to do something, about the issue, because it's a very big issue, in my opinion. I've seen it with my kids all the time.
Now, Will, I just want to say that the staff at all the buildings have been meeting with me, the staff that handle behavioral pieces for special education. They are trying to problem solve better ways to help kids. So I just want to be clear that I'm
Right.
not rushing to put kids out of this district.
I
Yeah.
understand
No.
that.
But there are kids who it is definitely appropriate that we can't meet their needs, their therapeutic needs. And we need to address those
Yep.
appropriately so they have a chance of becoming productive adults later on.
Yeah,
Yes,
and these,
I appreciate that.
those, not a district placement is probably one of the hardest decisions you'll ever have to make.
It is.
As a teacher, a faculty, a parent.
Oh, yeah.
These are things that are not done lightly. And, my heart breaks for those families and those kids because it's not an easy decision. So I need to re-amend my motion to we authorize the business administrator to research and purchase a van up to $40,000. Anything over $40,000 needs to go to the chair of finance and facilities.
Or the chair of finance in the
I-
finance committee.
Yeah, I think we still want them to check in with us before the purchase.
Okay.
Who's us?
I still, the
Facilities.
chair of finance. and
Why don't you,
chair of
why don't you,
facilities.
I keep,
So the two of them, that's what you said.
Yeah, I want to follow the same process that we did last time with.
and that,
Okay.
isn't that what I just
All right.
said?
Yep.
Yes.
It is.
With
Yep.
finance
Yes,
and
thank you. I just didn't
I
facilities.
second that
understand what
wonderful
you're saying.
motion.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you.
Whew,
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
I got it.
Okay. There any further discussion?
Just a question about like if is it a consideration like for it to be used in other, because I've personally been able to take the van that we have now all over. So like if it's used, will it be a consideration in the in-house versus out-of-house transportation thing? Considering, can it be used for other purposes during the school day when
Yes.
it's not being used?
Yes. So examples would be if a group of students needed to go visit something and they could use it as long as if we were transporting, typically speaking, we're going to be back here by 9. We don't have to leave till 1.
Mhm.
Okay. And if we weren't transporting and sports needed it, they need it no earlier than about 1. So between 9 and 1, it becomes something for our adaptive programs to use. Students are going to go visit here, or a student has to go get picked up here. There's different things that you can utilize it for, as long as we're cautious about the window that we use.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've
I
actually already had that conversation with Mr. Dawson ahead of this, just to see what the feasibility of that would be. And he has a calendar set up for the vans already.
Yeah, so you're going to kill me.
Great
but-
question,
But
Bob.
I think what I heard you say, to be honest, is that he's going to check in if he's spending over 40 grand. And-
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
not what that wasn't our process last time. The process was that he found a vehicle and he checked in with the two chair subcommittee members, and we all agreed that that was the right vehicle. That's the process that I.
That's fine. That would be really great because then we
Mhm.
have backup, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, and
it should be you and Jamie. He was checking with you and Jamie.
Mhm.
Okay.
I
that'd
think
be great.
I just think it's important to mention too, like any reticence isn't due to the need or the idea itself. It's more just the disparity between 38 and 54, right? And just like it's sort of that black and white. And I think what maybe you're looking for, Rick, is like there's a gray area, there's nuancing involved in the purchasing of this thing, making sure it's the right one at the right price, and you just want to have,
So I will rescind my motion and you can make the motion how you have just explained it.
and I'll second it.
Oh, really?
Okay.
All right, yeah, all right. So
Okay.
I'll
Rescinded,
make a
rescinded.
motion that we authorize the business administrator to research and purchase a vehicle up to $40,000. And you will check in with the what am I looking for?
Chair of Finance.
Chair of Finance and Facilities prior to doing so.
Second.
It wasn't your motion.
Okay, I respectfully disagree.
Said if he spends over 40 grand, you can watch it back.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
That was me.
Yeah.
Second.
Anything else?
All set.
Okay. All in favor?
Thank you, Heather.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Dr.
I want to thank you guys for your time and your
you.
support.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you
for all
very
the hard
much
work,
for your
Troy.
time.
Are you all
Yep.
set, Ms.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Yep, we're all set.
All right. Second public comment. Since there is no one here, we will move on. Lunch promotion update, Matt.
Okay, so I'm going to be sending a letter to the editor tomorrow asking for people to give donations to this meal assistance trust fund. I'm also been communicating with all the school building principals about how students can access those funds. Also, in my letter to the editor, I'm letting people know how they can access those funds as well. And then I've also started reaching out to the welfare departments of each of the towns, specifically Kingston this week, to try to educate them on getting their clients into free and reduced first, okay, and then into this meal assistance program if they qualify, okay. It was interesting this week. They have a client who didn't want to put in a free and reduced application, which is the pool of applicants that we really want to capture. So that's where we're at.
So before they get access to funds,
They have to, and the way we're going to handle that, we reflected on your feedback about including that in the letter, and we decided that if they reach out about the funds, that's the time for the person to have the conversation about the form.
Yeah.
We want someone to have that conversation, not just have it in the letter so that they get turned off. We want folks to call and connect with their guidance counselor, or administrator, somebody who can explain to them that this is available and help them work through it.
Yes, I'd rather get them in the door, have someone sit down with them and walk through the process.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yep, thanks, Matt.
All right. So it looks like next Sanborn Regional School Board meeting will be held on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the Sanborn Regional High School Library. And then I will call us into non-public per RSA 91A:3, Roman numeral 2, letters C and K.
Second.
All right, roll call in. Heather.
Yes.
Rick.
yes.
Jeremiah.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes.
Jamie.
Aye.
Micah.
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right, 5-minute break.